So when I was a graduate student, I had to work as a teaching assistant. And I had to do this once a quarter every year. And one year, I had a student that was a sexual assault victim. And the funny thing about that is she had a real rapist personality. You know, the grandiose sense of self-worth, the belief that people that aren't into you are into you. And you know, that just made her a really difficult person to deal with. And I was always kind of curious as to whether or not this was because of the trauma. You know, when people go through traumatic shit, they're gonna react how they're gonna react, and you really can't do nothing about it. But I feel as though I should have been exempt because I was just a teaching assistant. Well, anyway, I understood that as a TA, it's still my job to make sure the kids know their shit. So I really had to find a way to work through this whole attitude problem. So I sat and I thought about it. And then I figured out what I needed to do. I was going to talk to her like I was a rapist. And as odd as that sound, that shit seemed to work. So let me set the scene for y'all. We have my office hours and we have some building at UCI whose name I completely forgot because I haven't been there in years. Well, anyway, she walks in. She goes, yeah, I need help. I'm like, all right, sit down, shut up, stand up, bend over, touch your toes, stand straight up and do this shit. Now sit down. You know, I had to hit her with the grab because that's how rapists talk. And then if that's not how rapists talk, then, ooh, shit, I just embarrassed myself. Well, anyway, she sits down. And we started talking about organic reactions, specifically the mechanisms. And one thing that I don't like about certain teachers at UCI that teach Orgo is how they teach organic reaction mechanisms, because they teach it as a cookbook style where they say memorize the shit, but they don't really provide you a framework to really understand what's going on. And because of that, a lot of people truly don't know what the fuck is going on. So I started talking about molecular orbital theory because it provides a framework for you to understand what the fuck's going on, such that you can memorize a finite set of rules and apply them to every example that you're going to get in this class and actually understand it. So that makes organic chemistry a lot easier to understand because it cuts down on the stuff that you actually need to memorize. So I was like, ah! Now, one thing you need to know is that for every organic reaction, there are going to be two orbitals interacting. One orbital is going to have electron density and the other isn't. Now, there are three orbitals that you need to take into consideration that are always going to be filled with electron density. And there are three orbitals that are never going to be filled with electron density. And then I drew up a relative energy diagram and then asked her the following question. Now, operating under the assumption that organic reactions occur faster when the participating molecular orbitals' energy differences are small, what type of MO interaction is going to lead to the fastest reaction? She pauses. She goes, in the Pedo Nation? That's right, in the Pedo Nation. You like that in the Pedo Nation in your Taylor Nation pussy. And then we proceeded. So then we started talking about how MO interaction can affect conformation, or the three-dimensional space that the molecule takes up. So I was like, check it out. Now, let's take a look at this carboxylic acid. It can exist in two conformations, the S-cis and the S-trans. Alright? Now, it prefers to be in the S-cis because the lone pairs on the carboxylic oxygen can interact with the antibonding orbitals of the CO double bond. You get that? Yeah, you get that. You know you like that C double bond on you, your tight little Asian pussy. And then we proceeded. From there on, we started talking about what I did. And that led to a discussion about Lewis acidity and Lewis basicity. And I was like, okay, this is getting a little out of the scope of the class. But then I thought, who the fuck am I to withhold an education from her just because she won't eat me out or whatever? So I was like, okay, let's talk about Lewis acidity and Lewis basicity. Now, generally speaking, there are two types of Lewis acids, and by extension, two types of Lewis bases. And the difference between them has everything to do with charge density. So hard acids and hard bases have high charge density. Soft acids have low charge density. And the same is true for soft bases. And like preferably bonds with like, such that hard goes for hard and soft goes for soft. And then I drew up this little example to test her understanding of what I said. So I drew up a pi system, which is a soft base, and I gave her two possible Lewis acids that it could bind to: sodium bicarbonate or barium bicarbonate. I was like, all right, now which Lewis acid will bind to the pi system? She pauses. Barium bicarbonate? I'm like, yeah, barium bicarbonate, BBC. You know you like that BBC in your tight little Asian pussy, girl. And that's basically the end of the story.